When I called to talk to my mother, the phone kept ringing for a long time. No one was picking up my call. After a long time, when someone picked up the call, I recognized it by hearing the voice. It was my mother. I was hearing her voice after 2 days. As soon as I heard this voice, my heart filled up, and I started crying with silent tears. Then my mother hung up the phone because I didn't say anything. Then I called again. Then I heard my mother's annoyed voice again. "If you don't want to talk, why are you calling?" Then a sobbing voice came out of my mouth. "How are you, Mother? I am talking to you." That's all I had to say. My mother hung up the phone in anger. After that, I kept calling, but no one was picking up my call. Then they connected the phone. I was crying. Every relationship in my world had turned away from me. My crime was not that big. I agreed to my lover's words and married him of my choice, leaving my parents, and what did my lover, who was now my husband, do to me? The scene of the night flashed before my eyes again, and I started crying again. I could not understand why my husband was doing this to me. He used to claim to love me a lot, and now that I had got him, he had not even done me justice. Why did he treat me like this? I was regretting this very thing. I had been wandering around the house all day, and when he came at night, he had lovingly asked about my well-being, and then sat with me and started talking here and there, asking about the day's events, and as soon as I started to lie down after eating at night, he got up and started leaving the room. Now, all this was beyond my tolerance on the 3rd day. Even while I was with him, I was feeling his separation. 2 days passed because of this shame that if I would express my desire to him myself, if I would ask for my right from him, I don't know what he would think of me. But now, when he treated me the same way on the 3rd day too, I stood in front of him and started telling him that I have married you, I am your wife, and how can you ignore me like this? At one point, he scolded me and then said that when have I denied that you are not my wife? Just give me a few days respite. Ramadan is going to start in a few days, and after that, I will remove all your hugs and complaints. I will give you so much love that you will get tired of me. You will want to get rid of me all the time. But then I will not leave you, he said in a meaningful way while leaning close to me. And when he started to leave the room, I held his hand and said to him, "But today you cannot go like this. That is not why I came here. On the one hand, I have also angered my parents, and on the other hand, I have to endure your indifference. I have to endure separation even while being near. If I had to stay away from you, then why did I need to come here? Why did you need to marry me? Let me stay in my mother's house." He laughed loudly at my irritated manner and came closer to me and said, "You are in a bit of a hurry for this. Have you gone so crazy in love with me?" Seeing his manner, I was shocked for a moment that he was not making fun of me, but there was mischief dancing in his eyes, and there was not even a hint of mockery on his face. Before I could say anything more to him, he had left the room and went to his other room and locked the room from inside. I fell on the bed and cried profusely. What had happened to all this? It was the 3rd day of our marriage, and he was still not doing me any favors. He was still not coming to me, and I was still such a stranger to him, and this separation was enough to take my life. I had thought that he would break up with me and love me and fulfill every desire in my heart. I had been treating myself as a saint for so many years because my husband had rights over me, and now that I had found him, he was not ready to pay any rights. I spent the whole night thinking about why my husband was doing this to me. Then I was forced to think that maybe there was some flaw in him that was making him do this, that he was not capable of maintaining this relationship. As soon as I thought this, I was terrified. If this happened, then I myself denied my own thoughts and denied my thoughts by saying that this could not be the case. He is a handsome man. He is healthy in every way. How could this happen? The next day when I woke up, 2 other people were also present in the house. My husband told me that I have arranged Pakistani servants for you. They are husband and wife and will stay here from today. They had been living in Qatar for the past several years. They had 2 small children with them who were very cute. Then today, I spent the day playing with these children, and that woman was very talkative and used to talk very sweetly. She had become very open with me. Now a week had passed since I came here, and I was thirsty even while staying near the water. I had not yet been able to quench my thirst with her love. I didn't know what to do to make my husband come closer to me. When one day that maid teased me and said that your husband looks very romantic, and I think you will have a hard time getting rid of him, she closed her right eye mischievously while saying this. I was shocked to hear her. That day my husband was very late. Usually he would come home by this time. Today I don't know why. Why was he late? I kept trying to get his number, but I couldn't get his number. At that time, the maid was also in her quarters, and I was walking outside in the courtyard waiting for my husband. When I walked towards the maid's quarters, strange sounds were coming from inside. One of their windows was opening onto the lawn. When I was surprised by these strange sounds and looked inside the window, I was really shocked. The 2 husband and wife were busy with each other. I was seeing such a sight for the first time in my life. I was feeling strange. As if a fire had started to gather in my heart and I was feeling thirsty, I had seen this sight for the first time in my life, and it was creating a strange uneasiness within me. I wanted my husband to come quickly and take me in his arms. Seeing him, I was feeling strange, and at that moment, when I heard the horn of my husband's car, I immediately stepped back from my place and stood up. I was at a distance from there when the guard opened the door of the house. In my mind, the servant had become weak, and I started thinking that my husband was 1,000,000 times better than him. But despite this, he was not able to make me happy. What was the reason for this? And tonight, I was very restless. But tonight, too, my husband had left me in agony and gone to another room. I don't know what pleasure he got from seeing me tripping like this. I don't know what kind of satisfaction he was getting. During those days, my servant used to tease me with excuses that she would come to me for 2 days. Then Ramadan was starting, and when she said this for the 5th time, I looked at her with surprised eyes. I had been fasting and praying during Ramadan since the beginning, but my maid was taking this matter to heart. When I asked her why, she said, "Now you will get the answer to this question only on the first day of fasting." "What do you mean?" She laughed out loud and said, "Don't you know what Qatari men do during the nights of Ramadan?" I was surprised to hear her say this. I couldn't understand what she was saying. My husband didn't do anything at night. What was he supposed to do during the nights of Ramadan? Whereas then, only prayer is done. Then the question of doing all this did not arise. That day my husband said that whatever you need, you should go with the maid and buy it from the market. I had just come here. I did not know anything about the shopping malls here, and I wanted to go with my husband for the first time, but he put me off using the excuse of work and said that you should take him with you. Then I made a list of the necessary things and took him with me to go shopping. So I was unaware of these things, but she had been living here for the past several years and knew everything and every place. I was surprised to see the market. While shopping, I had separated from her and suddenly became worried about what to do now because I had no knowledge of these roads. Then I entered a street while walking. People were coming and going in this street, and I was now confused and worried about where to find my maid. I started shouting loudly to her. While searching for her, I had come a long way from there. Now there was no one to be seen here. Seeing this, I became worried about where I had come to. I was very scared. Then someone put a hand on my mouth and pulled me inside the house. When I turned around, in those days, I had graduated from college, and now I spent most of my time on social media. My mother was very worried about this habit of mine. She did not like me being glued to my mobile all the time, but what could I do? I was tired of being idle. The solution to avoid boredom was this mobile phone, which I was using a lot. My friends had taken admission in short courses, but I wanted to stay away from all these things and spend a few days in peace and quiet. My mother also told me a lot that you should also do some course. How long will you be idle like this? But I listened to her words in one ear and threw them out the other. I believed that a person should spend 4 days of his life in peace and not spend his days in studies and work. When my mother asked me to help with household chores, I would ignore her because my 2 younger sisters were more skilled than me in household matters. And they would also help my mother with household chores, and there was a sister-in-law at home who would do a lot of work. In such a situation, I would lie in my room carelessly, because helping me was not going to make any difference. A few grams of sugar were already useful for her. In those days, my use of Facebook had increased a lot, and I talked to a boy on Facebook. He was from Qatar, and when I saw his picture, I kept looking at him. He was very handsome, and the way he was dressing, it seemed that he was probably very rich. And for the first time in my life, I messaged a boy myself and started talking to him. Because I couldn't leave him without talking to him, my curiosity for him was growing, so I messaged him. For the first 2 days, he did not reply to me, and then he kept replying to me. I was very impressed by her beauty. Whenever I kept sending him many messages, he would reply to me half-answered. Gradually, he also started talking to me. When I called him for the first time, he spontaneously praised my voice, that your voice is very beautiful. My heart wants to keep listening to your voice, and I was filled with happiness after hearing his praise. Then, on his request, when I made a video call to him for the first time, he was also shocked to see me because I was also counted among the most beautiful girls. For how long did he keep looking at me with uncertainty? And then he said that I did not know that you would be such a beautiful girl. Now I used to spend my days and nights talking to him. He was a businessman. He was very busy, but he used to take out his time to talk to me, and day by day I felt as if I was falling madly in love with him, and it was impossible for me to live without him. That night, we were both busy on a video call when suddenly my mother came to me. She took the mobile from my hand, and seeing me talking to a boy, she got very angry and started beating me badly. I told my mother clearly that I was not doing anything wrong. I love this boy, and I want to marry him. My mother said that he is just passing time with you. Such boys do not get married. But I was sure that Shahryar was sincere with me, and he loved me truly the way I wanted him. In fact, he wanted me more than me. My mother was not ready to believe this at all. And then, when I told Shahryar in front of her that everyone has come to know about you, and now you have to marry me. For a moment he became silent, and then he started saying that if you give me your address, I will come to your house tomorrow. Hearing this, I burst into joy, but my family told me clearly that we will marry you only if we like the boy. And then after 2 days, Shahryar came to my house, and my parents met him and were impressed by him. But he had clearly told me that we will marry you to him. But after that, you will have no relation with us. Shahryar had married me and gone back, and soon he started getting my papers done. The rest of the family also used to talk about this, and I used to feel very hurt by these people's words when they used to tell me with great arrogance that he only wanted to marry you and added you to his name and went back and he would never call you. And hearing these things, I used to get worried. And when I asked Shahryar about this, he would laugh and say that there is nothing else in my life apart from you, and without you, there is no fun in life. Don't worry, I will call you soon, and soon you will be with me, in my arms. And then, a year later, when I was with her, when I was meeting my family, my mother turned her face to the other side. She said, "After today, don't show us your face." No one had spoken to me. I had left this house crying and was thinking that when I went to my husband, I would forget all my sorrows and pains after getting his love, but for some reason he was ignoring me. On the very first night, he started telling me that we would stay away from each other until Ramadan starts. You too would have to be patient until then. His logic was beyond my understanding. What did all this have to do with Ramadan? When there was only 1 day left in Ramadan, I was thinking that if my husband still did not come to me, I would talk to him bluntly about why he was doing this to me. If this was all I had to do, why did I get married? Meanwhile, I had come with my maid to do Ramadan shopping when someone put their hand on my mouth and pulled me into the house. When I turned around, there was a very large man standing there, looking at me with very interesting eyes and saying that tomorrow is the fast, and I was wondering what I would do until tomorrow. I have run out of money, but thankfully, now my Ramadan arrangements are made. I was scared after hearing this. His manner was very scary. He started pulling me into the room and I started screaming badly. I was trying very hard to free myself from him. Then I cut his hand hard. At one point, he let go of my hand and that one moment was enough for me. I immediately ran out of there. He ran after me, but I was faster than him and soon I was out of this deserted street. That's when I bumped into someone hard. I was scared, and when I looked up, I saw that it was my maid. She was looking for me, and seeing me like this, she got worried. I looked behind me and saw that the person was no longer following me. I was very scared. That's when I told the maid to go home immediately. Even after coming home, my breathing had not recovered. I was thinking that I don't know who that person was and what he had tried to do to me, and his words kept echoing in my mind. Ramadan was starting from yesterday, so I wanted to call my mother and father at home once and wish them a happy Ramadan. When I called, my mother picked up the phone. I thought she would hang up after hearing my voice, but that didn't happen. She spoke to me very lovingly, and this was a big deal for me. I asked my mother with great hope that she had forgiven me. She said that parents can't stay angry with their children for long. What wrong did you do? But I pray that you always be happy. May Allah bless you. Since I got married, she had prayed for me for the first time and I was filled with joy. When my husband came at night, he had a bouquet of flowers in his hand. He was looking at me with great love, but I was angry with them because I still hadn't forgotten what they had done to me yesterday. I took the bag and put it aside. After eating, I lay down in my place. Then, to my surprise, my husband closed the door and came to me. I kept looking at him with surprised eyes. Now, he had ended all my hugs and complaints. The veils between us had come off. I was happy and surprised at this. And when I asked my husband about this, he said, "I had told you earlier that I would start all this in the month of Ramadan." And I felt ashamed after hearing him. I had always been used to fasting regularly, but now when my maid teased me every night, I felt ashamed. And then one day, I asked her why Qatari men have sex with their wives only during Ramadan. She looked at me with surprised eyes and said, "You don't know?" I shook my head in the negative, so she said that in fact, Qatari men believe that establishing a relationship during this month will create a lot of love between them and the children they will have, will also be good and obedient. Even so, they consume more dates during Ramadan, so their strength also increases than before. And they do not get enough sleep the whole night, and all these men are like this. Now I understood what he said, and now it was becoming more and more difficult for me to face his intensity. That day, when I folded my hands in front of him, he laughed loudly and said that you were in a hurry for this thing and what happened now. Then I blushed and put my head on his shoulder and said that then I did not know that you were so romantic. A spring of happiness had come into my life. My parents had made me angry and they started talking to me in a very nice way. The resentment I had towards my husband had also gone away, and I was proud that my husband was very good and loved me very much.